everybody. Welcome to Quest, the adventure game podcast. Point and click adventure game? Adventure game. I don't know.
Graphic adventure game. Text
Graphic
adventure game.
the game, the adventure game podcast. I'm Ben, one of the hosts. I'm joined by. We'll get it
Jess.
right. We'll get
Jess.
it. We'll get it right one of
Yes.
these days, Jess.
We're going to nail it. I mean, the thing is, we're really good at this. So it's only a matter of time before we get it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what's bad is they don't know this is our fourth take. Like,
Yeah.
we've tried starting this podcast, 3 times already, and this is the best take it's the best take we have.
Today we're going to. This is, oddly enough, this might be the most excited I've been of any of our discussions. This week we're going to be talking about Telltale's The Walking Dead, and all week in our Discord chat with each other, I've just been I try not to, and this has been true of other podcasts I do too. I try not to goose the discussion. Like I try to keep it nice and fresh and not say anything. But I have so many things because I'd never played it. Never played The Walking Dead.
And you've been saying you can't get enough. Like all week long, you're like, how many more seasons of this are there? And like, are there any fan games? Just any other way for me to experience this? And I told you there's a TV series, a comic book. You hadn't heard about any of that.
I saw someone. I was looking. Apparently, you could mod it. People have modded it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
What's the Walking Dead modding scene?
I did not look into it. We're recording a podcast. I did no further research than
you don't want
the
to
amount
like
of The Walking Dead that I played, which we'll reveal as we discuss. But before we get to that, first introductions. I stream on twitch.tv/gov at PS_Garrick, GARAK. And Jess?
I'm Decaf Jedi over there. My friends call me DJ. I don't know. I didn't like that. No,
I don't like that.
I'll walk that one back.
Sorry, you know what? I'm just predisposed against DJs because there was, I wouldn't call him a bully, but there was an obnoxious DJ in my elementary school.
Just cutting and scratching all the time, crossfading.
He had a catchphrase. He was a kid with a catchphrase.
What was it?
He said, "You think?" It was so annoying.
I'm sorry, Ben. Can we change the topic of our episode to... I know we talked a lot about Walking Dead this week, but now this DJ that says "you think" is the only thing I care about in the world.
Imagine a 9-year-old. Oh, I remember even as a child, I was like, I didn't think like this is a kid with a catchphrase because I didn't have that in my vocabulary. I was just like, he just keeps saying "you think."
Now, do you think he was trying to make it happen? Was it like a...
Oh, he made it happen. He said it with absolute confidence.
Wow. Can you imagine being that confident about anything?
I'm still cowed by this little boy's confidence. This is clear. Like, I'm 38 years old. This is probably like 30 years ago. Yeah. And I'm still intimidated by this kid.
Like, I walk up to a young kid at the bus stop and I casually say, "Pretty hot out here." And he looks at me and says, "You think?" I might go home and cry. Yeah. I mean, even at my age today. Yeah. I can't handle that. Yeah, that's
he was the kid that like his parents let him watch the Chucky movies.
Oh man. You know, I'm picturing this kid and I'm trying to think of the time frame. Like,
so when let's just for easy math.
Yeah.
So this is 30 years ago. So this is 1994.
Okay. Did he have a starter jacket?
He
feels like he might have had a Dallas Cowboys starter jacket. Like,
you know, that you're close.
Okay.
I remember what his hair looked like. I don't remember the rest of it. I don't think he I think whatever image that you have and that the people are thinking of that a kid in the year 1993 or 1994 in New England that had a catchphrase whose
I just can't hear
whose
it without.
whose parents let him watch the Chucky movies. Uh, did the Chucky movies come out by then? When was the
Oh, I think
Child's
so.
Play?
Yeah, I think the Chucky movies were early to mid '90s. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely. It feels like
Child's
Chucky's
Play
always been with us.
was all right. Child's Play came out in '88.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think Child's Play 2 came out not too long. Came out in '90. So and 3 came out in '91. So he
Wow.
had
They're banging them out.
he had a lot of Chucky movies that he could watch.
Yeah. And you had zero.
Yeah, number 1. This is actually ties into our discussion.
Yes.
Number 1, I wasn't allowed to watch the Chucky movies. Number 2, they would have scared the shit out of me. So it's fine.
Absolutely the same. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch any horror movies, and it's good because my parents were right to worry that I would cry myself to sleep for a month.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. That's the all right. Let's talk about what have you been playing lately. Jess, you told me before we were recording that you were thinking about this. You were really
Yeah,
engaging with this.
yeah. I mean, if I can give everyone a behind the scenes peek, I always forget to remember what I was playing this week, and I panic when this segment we do every episode comes up. So I actually prepared. I wrote down some notes. I've been playing, and I just streamed this earlier this week. The fantastic "It Takes Two to Tangle." As we're recording this, the very recently released King's Quest fan game by Ackrell, and it's pretty good stuff. I mean, Ben, you've seen some of this. It's got some great.
I watched some of your stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got great hand animated graphics. It has a real King's Quest 7 sort of vibe going on to it. Ackrell worked on this thing for 20 years, I believe. It started as a fan fiction that grew into one of the best looking and best sounding fan games I think I've played in recent memory. It's good stuff. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very like I was chatting with somebody else about this where like I haven't seen because there are a couple other, not counting the remakes, other King's Quest fan games, right?
Yeah, there are a few. Yeah, there's Silver Lining is the big
Silver
one.
Lining. Okay.
And then a few others here and there, like what King's Quest ZZT. Is that what the what is called? I
Uh,
can't remember.
well, I
Like the
mean,
ASCII one.
there probably was
Yeah,
a King's Quest and ZZT. I'm
yeah,
sure
and
there was an everything in ZZT. They made a million.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean there were a few
Made a
like
million
that.
ZZTs.
And then of course the fan remakes of 1 through 3, which I haven't played any of those actually, but
Those are good. I like those.
yeah,
But what's just so funny is that like the like King's Quest I don't think of as a like a continuity or a canon series. It obviously has a storyline that progresses from King's Quest 1 all the way through to Mask of Eternity, but it's like the story is just kind of a scaffold to throw one of the family members into some sort of brand new fantasy world that they can wander around and fall in love in or whatever,
yes,
or save their family.
or
And
de-shrink their castle.
yeah, or de-shrink their families in the castle.
Do you think he cared as much about them as he did his castle, though? I mean, when he gets there and he like is shocked at the beginning of the game, he's like, "My castle." He doesn't say my family that was in my castle, but
It
that's
doesn't
where King's
say
Quest 5
my family, including my son, who was like spent most of his life kidnapped from me.
and my daughter who handed over as sacrifice to a 3-headed dragon.
Yeah, but it's just funny. Like so, I don't think of King's Quest like when I think of King's Quest, I don't think of all the story details. I don't think of the characters.
Mm,
Like obviously everybody is like ho 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 Cedric or whatever, but like it's not really like characters
it's not
plot.
a it's not a lore centric series in the way that like say Quest for Glory is, where there are
Sure.
intentional callbacks to
Yeah,
previous
yeah, yeah.
characters and things like that. You know,
And so the fan games, and this isn't exclusive to this, it's very funny, and this isn't a criticism. It's just funny to me that it's like it takes this developed, like, very loose story building in those King's Quest games and makes them into like an elaborate like mythos. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't see any of that there. It's very fun.
No, it is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, the most minor spoiler alerts. It features Edgar from King's Quest 4 and 7. It features Cosima from King's Quest 5 and 6. Two relatively minor-ish characters, supporting characters in those stories, who marry or date into the King Graham lineage,
Yeah.
and it's fun seeing like those parts of the lore that I never gave a lot of thought about after playing those respective games become the centerpiece of this one. I think it's so easy to play the hits when you do a fan game. As someone who's made fan games that absolutely played the hits, it's like, I'm going to give people what they want. And that's Roger Wilco zooming around in the aluminum mallard, or, something like that. And I like that this one is going to a more obscure corner of King's Quest lore, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you know how long, like, is this like, how long do you think it is? I mean,
I
you
don't
just
have a good
started
sense
it.
of it. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 acts, and I haven't finished the first act after a couple of
Oh,
hours. So,
interesting.
yeah, it
Okay.
feels like, I mean, who knows if the others are shorter, longer, what, but it feels like it's going to be a full length game as far as I can tell so far.
Wow.
40
That's
hours.
always that's always impressive when you play
Yeah.
like a full length fan game. That's always really impressive.
Yeah.
Like, uh especially as like even like just normal games.
Hmm.
I'm happier with like they're you could we're going to talk about a Telltale game, and those episodes are quite short. Those whole
Yes.
games are quite short even.
Yeah. But everyone should go download it. It takes two to tangle. Throw it in your Google machine, and it should pop up in no time. Ben, what have you been playing?
Well, Jess, I've been playing recently a little known game, an obscure indie, came out last year. It's called Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, wow. They made a third one?
Yeah, they made a third one. So I mean, I'm not going to bore everybody. Talk every discussion has been had about Baldur's Gate 3, and I've already like I didn't beat it. I played the first two acts, and then I would, and then like I was pulled away for a bit. Now I'm just restarting now that like the final patch came out. And so it's like, it's Baldur's Gate 3. It's very good. Like,
Yeah, who knew? Especially
I-
Act One. I mean, Act One's like the greatest video game ever, and it's still
it's
pretty good after that, even in vanilla. I haven't played it since it was thoroughly patched.
it's such a I mean, because you and I think we both bought it on its first, like on day one. Like we didn't get early access, but we both bought it day one. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, because it's just so funny because I remember when I first heard this company, and I haven't played any of the Divinity games. I've played a little bit of Original Sin 2 now, but before that,
Mm.
I hadn't played any of those, and it was just like, this company is making Baldur's Gate 3, and my only reaction to it was, why? Like,
Yeah, no.
who cares? Like, why? Why do I want a Baldur's Gate 3? I very much enjoy Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, but it's not really like a series or a franchise where I was like, oh, this one needs to come back however many years, because what, 2 was in like 2 came out in the 90s, right? Like,
Maybe early 2000. Maybe it's right at the cusp. It's like the turn of the millennium there. Yeah, I mean, it's a good ways back.
and so it was just like, yeah, this other developer, like, decades later is picking up the franchise, and it's just like, well, I don't need this. And then I just remember the day or two before, I was like reading people's buzz from the early access, and everybody was just like, this is incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
I would.
was like, oh,
Yeah,
and I
it
bought it
wasn't on my
immediately.
radar until the pre-release press started rolling out, and I was just reading everything, and finally it's just like, I think I may have to play this game. I think I was reading through, and this always suckers me. This is how you get me to buy a BioShock game too. I was reading about, oh, there's this scenario early in the game where there are 7 different ways you can solve it. I fell for that every time. That was the marketing hype for BioShock
Well, we could
1,
tie that
2,
into
Infinite.
Walking Dead as
Right.
well when we talk
I'm an
about
idiot.
that.
I'll fall for that every time. And I
It,
saw some sort of thing about all the ways you could defeat some encounter in Baldur's Gate. And I'm like, yep, I want that. Give it to me. I'll still take the most obvious route. But I
yeah,
know there are other ones.
this is maybe the only, not the only game, but it's one of the only games, mostly because of the absurd amount of resources that they poured into it, where it's like those decisions do, like, you do find yourself in a whole completely different
Yes.
situation, and that's fun. But
Choices
yeah,
matter, Ben.
yeah.
That's the
Oh,
important thing to
brother.
remember.
Anyway, yeah, Baldur's Gate 2 or 2. I'll go back and play Baldur's Gate 2 as well. I have not beaten a Baldur's Gate,
You
a
know,
single one, any of the 3.
I didn't play 1 and 2. It's
You
my
haven't played
secret.
1, 2?
No, I was like, I
I
picked up
bought
a
I
bargain bin copy of Icewind Dale, and I played 1 and 2 of that, and I was like, "This is fun." But as I understand, it was like Baldur's Gate for dummies. It was like we stripped out all the rich character development and everything,
Yeah,
and
it's
had
just
some fighting.
combat. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just a dungeon crawler.
yeah.
I got Baldur's Gate 1 also at release. I
Ah.
remember it was a
So you're an
great.
early adopter of Baldur's
Yeah,
Gate, just
I'm a early Baldur's adopter.
a
Except for
tastemaker.
2. 2 I didn't get until later. Is Icewind Dale the only Infinity Engine game you've played? You didn't play Planescape?
No, I haven't. No, I
Or
haven't.
is there, what else is there?
I
I don't
played
even
a few
know.
gold box games, never got anywhere in them.
Pools of Radius or
Yeah, yeah,
Radiance,
yeah.
Curse of the Azure Bonds, so
Yes.
on.
Great cover art on all of those. That's what I really
Oh,
remember.
oh my
Great
goodness.
hair on all those characters.
They,
Yeah.
yeah, true 80s looks
Yes.
on the
I'm thinking of the Curse of the Zurabons cover
yeah.
right now, and like I recall ringlets, I would say, of hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I
It's
have to Google this.
very,
Is
very blown out
okay. Now,
80s hair.
oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's the one. It's like a
Baldur's
Sheena Easton kind of look.
Baldur's Gate, the original Baldur's Gate uh at release was so hard, even on the easiest difficulty. I never got very far into it. It wasn't until years later that I ground my way. And similar to Baldur's Gate 3, you don't get into the titular city until late in the game.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you're like
uh,
40 hours in if you're lucky. When you
yeah, like
stroll through the gates of
the
Baldur's Gate,
first, like, 2/3 or so, you're just wandering around in the woods, and
rambling.
like uh the game throws you into, like, very early on in Baldur's Gate 1, uh like, an extremely difficult battle with the unintuitive real-time plus pause battle system that they had for those. Very I don't know.
Is
Anyway,
it? Is it? We don't need to talk about it. I'll ask you off stream which battle it is. I'm wondering if it's the same one
it's
that.
at the Friendly Arm Inn. The Friendly Arm Inn. Friendly
Oh,
Arms.
okay. I'm thinking of a different one that really got me. I can't. It was like some bugbears out in the wild.
Oh, I'm talking about 1. I'm talking about
Oh
1.
one. Okay. I thought we were back on 3.
I the 3 I've even on this replay, I always start out on the medium difficulty, and it really didn't take that long before I swallowed my pride and put it on adventurer.
Which is what you are. That's
Yeah,
what.
which is that's what the whole podcast is about. And
Yeah.
speaking of what this podcast is actually about, so as said, we're going to talk about the Telltale game The Walking Dead, specifically the first season.
Hmm.
And before we even get into like talking about it, I wanted to do a little bit of level setting because Jess, you teach a class on zombies. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, that's a strange series of words to say, but it's absolutely true. I teach a course called Politics of the Undead. So it's not just zombies. I mean, it's vampires, it's Frankenstein's,
Do you
it's
have
ghosts. I
the
mean,
hopping the Chinese hopping vampires? Is that part of like a geopolitical?
we do 4 weeks on those just alone. No. Yeah, that's the whole third half of the third part of the class. Yeah, it's good. It's good. No, but I teach a class. Yeah, it's a political science course where the goal is we're going to use the metaphor of undead monsters as a way to talk about the much scarier real world of politics.
That's very interesting. And so would and I think I you shared your syllabus for this online at one
Yeah,
point. And I remember perusing it, and it is like the course materials are a mix of like poli sci textbook and like watch this episode of this thing or this movie. Is that correct?
that's right. Yeah, it's kind of like I mean, it sort of sits at the crossroads of maybe a political theory course and kind of a media studies course. So, like literally last week, um, the class and I watched Dawn of the Dead, the 1978 version together, and that was a week of class. So I'm earning my paycheck out there.
Now, so is The Walking Dead is the show, the comic, or the game at all in this class?
It's interesting. When I taught it, this is the first time I've taught it in 10 years. I
Okay.
taught it for a little while and took a break. Back then, The Walking Dead was real, real hot. And we read the first several volumes of the graphic novel series and watched a few episodes. This time around, I'm replacing it with The Last of Us wherever I can, figuring that that's a little more recent, a little hotter for the students. So we'll see how that goes over. I say that after saying I made them watch a movie from 1978.
Now, and so I'm going to assume then, and seriously, we haven't had this. This is what I was talking about, keeping like the discussion powder dry. This is what I'm talking about. Are is this something that you really like? Would you call yourself like like a George Romero guy or a zombie guy or any of this, or was this just a funny idea you had one day?
Well, I mean, ultimately, everything I do boils down to a funny idea I had. I mean, that is the true answer. Just why did you pick that shirt today? Is the funny idea I had. I mean, just I live for the lulls. You know, that's what it says on my bumper sticker. I live for the
Right,
lulls.
right.
Um, but no, I mean, I will say when I created this, like in 2010, I was a pretty big fan of the zombie genre. I mean, it was really at its sort of peak, maybe peak on the way down a little bit there, and I was super into it. Like I kind of consumed as much of it as I could, and then created the class. I mean, part of it was like a cynical, what do students care about right now, and how can I get them to enroll in one of my classes? But then I was really into it too. And I will say, what I've found is as I've grown older, and this will be relevant to I think a lot of our discussion today. Uh, my tolerance for like particularly gory stuff or stuff where especially like kids are put in peril, which is very relevant to our discussion, I've kind of gone soft on that. That's something that doesn't, the genre doesn't speak to me the same way it used to, but I do still think it's a good platform for talking about politics.
What was your the thing that got you into zombies? Was it
You know, I think this is bad. I think I may have seen Shaun of the Dead before I saw any like real zombie movies.
I think that's a perfectly fine
Yeah.
answer.
Because I probably wouldn't seek out a horror movie otherwise, but it's like, oh, this is a
It
comedy.
has the guys from Spaced.
Yeah, exactly. I looked at that and I'm just like, yeah, I'll give that a try. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then I think from there, watched some of the like remakes of Romero stuff that were coming out
Oh yeah,
around
because
that same time. Ving
because then you had
Rhames'
Zack
Dawn of the Dead.
Snyder's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I watched some of those. I was like, I think I like this. I think this is for me. So, but now I mean, I liked Last of Us quite a bit. I haven't played the game. I like the TV series quite a bit. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, I love them enough to want to teach an entire 15-week course about them. But yeah, I am increasingly squeamish about about the Living Dead. Now, vampires, a good chunk of my course is vampires.
Uh-huh.
Love vampires. Still can't get enough
Oh,
vampires.
vampires are good.
Yeah.
What's the like, what's the vampire stuff that you have on the what's one what's some of the course reading here? I'm
I
just
mean, it's
curious.
funny because again, I'm taking this syllabus from 2012. It's like, who here loves
Dracula,
True
dead,
Blood?
loving it. Oh,
Yeah, that should be there. Yeah, it's like everybody loves True Blood. Let's talk about True Blood. And it's like, well, those readings aren't going to work anymore.
no.
Nix all of those. Like, I had a couple of Buffy the Vampire Slayer articles. It's like these students' grandparents watched Buffy the Vampire
No.
Slayer. You
Mm-mm.
can't have Buffy in there. I mean, that's the
Buffy's
problem.
out.
Twilight, even I had like excerpts from Twilight gone. The vampire genre needs.
There's isn't there an interview with the vampire show that people like
There
right
is
now?
currently. That would probably
Yeah,
be the
there you
one to
go.
go to. I mean, I'm mostly spend my time back with just Bram Stoker. I'm like, we're going all the way back to ye olden days
And
of
by that
vampire
you
lit.
mean Coppola's
That's right. Yes, the
thing.
Gary Oldman. Is that who's in that? Is that
I think so. I don't
yeah?
recall who's
You
in
know, the
that.
one from that one Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode. Yeah, that one. But yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
and we talk
yeah.
about mummies and the Frankenstein monster, and all, it's sort of this the take I have on. And I think this game speaks to a lot of this too. Is that we throughout history, all the way back to myth and folklore, have used monsters as a way to explore the anxieties that a society is facing at any given point in time. It's like a way of us working through the tensions that are eating away in the back of our mind. It may be
Uh-huh.
literally in the case of zombies.
Right.
But
So like Godzilla,
absolutely,
obviously.
Godzilla,
Yeah.
same thing. And I think that zombie stuff in particular puts the focus squarely on questions of what happens when order breaks down, what happens when the institutions of society we count on to keep us safe, to protect us from outside threats, to protect us from one another. When those collapse, what are we left with? And I think it all becomes questions of human nature, oftentimes. And to me, that's what's fascinating. I think it gets back to like some of the earliest stuff political philosophers were trying to figure out
Hobbes
about the human
stuff,
condition.
right?
What's that?
This is me digging into my
Uh oh.
poli sci 101. Let's see. Did I get it?
What was okay? Let's hear it.
Hobbes stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, Thomas. Yeah. Ben, I'm glad you brought up a Hobbesian perspective on the. Yeah, that's
Hobbesian.
yeah, that's what fans. We don't say Hobbesian. We say
Oh, I didn't know
Hobbesian. If
that.
we're
I didn't know that.
fancy, we say Hobbesian.
In
Yeah, Thomas
the
Hobbes. I
hollowed
mean,
halls.
yeah, when he writes about the state of nature, what's mankind like absent the existence of any kind of political authority? He describes it as a war of all against all. You know, everyone wants the same stuff. There's not enough to go around. So we'll do whatever it takes to get it. And life is nasty, brutish, and short, right? That's sort of the Hobbes bit.
Well, and I think, and like I think also maybe this is kind of what you're already saying, but also I think that there's something, that I would view a little sinister in the popularity of zombie stuff, of this idea of this growing mass that looks like us, that isn't us, that can be treated with violence because they are beneath, like because they are not us, because and they're always coming. And like I and this isn't, I've seen people espouse this
Yeah.
isn't an original thought of mine, but it's like you could have like read it in a very sinister way, or like in a very pessimistic way of why zombie stuff was, it's not quite as popular anymore, I would say, but why like and obviously that's not like, I think you could apply that read to some stuff, but not all stuff. Like any of the George Romero zombie movies, they all have a very clear and distinct point
Yes.
of view that they make it clear, and sometimes it's something like that, and sometimes it's very
Yeah.
clearly that, and it's interrogating that, and it's
Uh-huh.
looking at the camera and saying like, "Do you
Yeah.
understand this?"
Yeah, a lot of cases, I
Uh,
mean, he's usually turning the finger around and pointing at us. It's like, "This is
yeah,
you. This is how you
I
behave."
blame you, the
Yeah, that's
viewers.
right. That's right. It's weird how he always steps into frame toward the end of the film and just literally says that. I feel like it's a little bit
It's the best
ham-fisted, but,
part. I think that's the best part of every George Romero movie is when he
it's
comes
like
out. It's like Alfred Hitchcock's cameos, but except it's Alfred Hitchcock walking out and he's going like, "You see, that's the MacGuffin. Everyone's going to care about that, but really, honestly means nothing. It's just something to string you along so you're interested in the story." And then he walks away.
yeah, I just like the ones
I'm
where he walks
very
by and he
disappointed.
waves. He's like, "Hey, it's me,
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock," and then just exits off the other side of the screen. Like, those are the best ones. But yeah.
Very disappointed in myself. I didn't throw my Alfred Hitchcock impression in there.
Oh,
We'll have
you
to
have
say that
one?
for.
You have okay.
I have to warm up to it,
Okay.
but
Okay, gotcha,
it's
gotcha, gotcha.
because
And you're thinking
there's
about it.
a if you look up, there's a Alfred Hitchcock does a television. I think it's a television trailer or something for North by Northwest, and it's him talking through. It's like, I have a couple tickets for you as you go on this lovely trip. Like I have to watch it again and kind of,
Uh-huh.
but something like that. It's like it's him presenting, and he's like, "I now I've got you another lovely ticket." Like it's been a long time. I have to warm. It's not.
You
I'm
don't have
not
it.
quite there. I
It's on
don't
speed
quite.
dial. Yeah.
But he's in there. He's
Yeah.
knocking. He's just he's on the back shelves. I gotta send a guy.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, this idea of like presenting the zombie as the other, like the negation of what we are. If we are rational and we are individualistic and all these other sorts of things we imagine ourselves to be, they're the opposite of that, which makes them a great stand in for anything society's scared of, whether it's communists, whether it's terrorists, whether at certain times in history, fear has been centered around immigrants coming into the country. I mean, the origins of the zombie genre date back to American sort of fear and fascination with Haiti during our occupation there during the first half of the 20th century. So, yeah, absolutely. This idea that they can be a stand in for whatever society is worried about at any moment. And that's what I like about Romero's stuff. I mean, he kind of turns it around and says, well, actually, it's you guys that are the monsters. It's consumerism. It's
Yeah.
American consumerism that's ruining the world, not
It's
communism.
racism. It's
Yes.
consumerism. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is a
It's
lot better than the let's use these people to scare people about people who are different than them.
yeah,
Yeah.
like let's make a movie about, or let's make a TV show, or let's make a video game about just how miserable people can be.
Yeah, I mean, and I think maybe this is where, I mean, there's no question the Walking Dead game engages with some of these questions. I mean, in some really straightforward ways. I mean, it engages with questions of race and gender and
Mhm,
class and all
mhm.
these other. I mean, kind of all
Yeah.
over the place. It's a very political game in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the same time, it is also a game that I feel like at times is let's watch horrible things happen to people, which is maybe
So
where, yeah.
this is where I put my cards on the table. So when we were discussing this podcast, it was, oh, we should have our first one where we specifically talk about a game, and it's like, oh, I've never played The Walking Dead. It's just been sitting there in my Steam library for years and years and years. And so this was a great excuse for me to play The Walking Dead, and I'm now going to admit this is a DNF, not Duke Nukem Forever. This is a did not finish. I could not finish this game. I could absolutely not. And this isn't, so if for everyone that's like, oh boy, they're gonna talk about The Walking Dead, my favorite. I can't wait to hear people talk about The Walking Dead, my favorite game.
I can't wait to hear what they
Uh
think about episode 4.
yeah, like they're going to be like very upset. I could not finish. I played the first two episodes and I was out honestly at the like by the end of the first. Really honestly before like it was thoroughly unpleasant to me and that isn't I recognize that it's like that the writing is good, the acting is like the voice acting is very good, the
Fantastic.
music, the Telltale music guy did a lot of really great music for all of their games. The like I didn't get the remastered version. I just was playing the original. I think it still looks great. Like I think it looks really sharp. That
I
comic
prefer the
book
color
looks.
grading on the original actually over the
Oh,
definitive
cool.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, like the you know it has a very of its time like overuse of like certain colors that I thought was very nice actually
Hmm.
and looked very evocative.
It gives it an aesthetic.
And I mean it held my attention. I was paying it like and it's also playing it I like it immediately becomes obvious why after that nothing was ever the same again
Yeah. I
for
mean, this game
Telltale.
completely transforms Telltale. I mean,
This
after
is
this,
yeah,
everything's
like
a Walking Dead 'em up at some level.
yeah,
Forget
like
inventory puzzles, all that sort of stuff. It's dialogue and narrative focused moving forward.
like playing it, it's just like, oh, I get this because anyone can play this. It has this cool magic trick which you could, you know, especially like then that was far more novel. Now, obviously, we all know that like you know none of those choices really matter, but it doesn't matter that they don't matter. Like I don't think that it really matters that it doesn't matter. It matters how it
It
makes you
feels like they matter.
feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if it it is only as good as the magic trick is done because it's like when a magician pulls a coin out of your ear, it's not that there was a coin in your ear, it was that they fooled you. And
You nincompoop. There was no coin in your ear.
and
I hate when they
you,
say that right after they do
you
it too.
absolute duds.
You boob.
You fool.
There's no magic at play.
Is it going
No.
to the bank? Excuse me. Uh,
I'd like an ear deposit, please. And that's when the magician pops out and he's like, ha ha, it was sleight of hand.
yeah.
But no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, like my background on this is I played The Walking Dead all the way through for the first time a few years ago, and I streamed it. I'd played most of it in the past, and then went back and restarted to stream the whole thing. So I have played all 5 episodes of season one,
Okay.
and
And
yeah, I
you've
mean,
only played a little bit of two, and that's it,
like a little
right?
bit, as in like 15 minutes. I got 15 minutes into season two, and I think the game was like, it's time to kill a feral dog now, and this is going to make you feel really bad about having to make this choice, even though it's the only choice to make. And I like tried other things, and it was clear I had to. I don't want to do this anymore. There's already a horrible dog scene in chapter one that you didn't get to, Ben. Season one has or season one, I think it's episode 4, has a scene where you have to. I mean, again, this is what I don't love about the game. There's a lot I do love about it, and I'll loop back to that. You have to dig up a dead dog in someone's backyard so you can get the microchip collar from its corpse to get through the doggy door of their house to break in, which is very adventure gamey. I mean, that's like
That
but
is very adventure
yeah,
gamey.
but I mean, it's like at the same time, it's like
They
press.
made sure to make it as gruesome as possible.
That's right. It's like press Q and E to dig up this dead dog, and then press spacebar to pry open its like shoebox or cardboard box or whatever it's in. I mean, and again, it felt to me, and I think this is the thing I don't like about Walking Dead is it felt very much like a less of engaging me emotionally and maybe like trying to maybe I don't know where the difference between engaging and manipulating is, which maybe I should speak with a therapist about.
Um, so a therapist or a good arts critic, you know, like you could go to a therapist and be like,
Do you know any
You
good art
know,
critics?
I feel that Forrest Gump is an emotionally manipulative film,
Yes.
and your therapist will be like, "I don't think this is an appropriate usage of either of our time."
And that's why I say, I'm paying you, Arna. And yeah, it just goes downhill from there. But no, that's what bugs me about it. I feel like at times it's like, yeah, does the gory, like grim, dark stuff suit the tone of the story? Probably. But making me enact these things, like, oh, I
So
don't know.
so there's a couple things that so yeah, if you haven't played the first season of The Walking Dead, I guess we'll spoil it.
They're zombies.
It's an old game at this point. It is a
Yeah.
retro game. It came out in 2012, I think.
Wow.
Uh yeah, that's 12 years ago. It is almost like but I think it playing it in 2024 is different than playing it then, because I think then 2012, you're like, that comes around the end, I would think. And I ask you, as a professor that goes to pop culture conferences, uh uh like, it feels like there was kind of like, you have uh, in certainly American, like, science fiction and fantasy stuff like that, very grim, like, you have the grim dark post 9/11 stuff,
Yeah.
and instead of like kind of going away, it just kind of doubles down and doubles down and doubles down. And so it's like you have like stuff like one of my absolute favorite shows, but it's like you have Battlestar Galactica, which is like, very grim, but it's not as grim as The Walking Dead.
Hmm.
And then you have the Nolan Batmans, which I would say, like, I would tie to this. Like, the Nolan Batmans are, it's like, now there's Batman, and it's pretty grim and it's pretty dark, and wow, Batman's part of the surveillance state. What does that
Yeah.
make you like? What does that make you think? Like, like,
The Batman
and
Opticon.
yeah, and then like you have this, and it's just like in the start of the second episode of this, like, you just immediately go from like wandering like around in like beautiful fall woods to chopping a guy's leg off. And I just remember thinking, like, this isn't fun to me. Like, but it is like, I I I think for me, I would enjoy this if this was just two notches less, but I'm not familiar with The Walking Dead. My understanding is that the Robert Kirkman stuff, that's his name, right?
Yep.
Uh that his stuff is um very more on the nihilistic side.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean it is, I mean it's pretty dark stuff. And I think the game mimics that. Ben, again, spoiler alert, did you make it to the cannibal farm? The
Yeah, that's the second episode.
Okay, that's the second episode. So you got to see the cannibal farm.
To serve man.
Yes.
I
Now,
and see, that's the thing where it's like, if it was just 2 degrees low, like, I understand the appeal of it is how hard they went.
yeah.
Um like, I was like, this is kind of a fun, kind of like macabre thing. It's just they made it so gross. And also the game is also constantly putting, like, just making me scared for Clementine, and that's just not
Yeah,
fun for me.
I get it. I mean, I think the question I want to ask you, and I think this will tell us and our listeners a lot about who you are as a person. You're in the zombie apocalypse and you are the leader of some sort of group. What group do you become? Are you like the cannibal farmers? Are you someone who's like done everything up like Renaissance fair style, and for some reason you're living like a medieval lifestyle in your little enclave? What is the theme of your group of survivors?
Uh, uh
Trekkies.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, try my here's first off, there is no doubt that I would not be a survivor.
No, I mean, there's no doubt you. So you're saying you would survive?
No, no, I would not
Okay,
survive. I
yeah.
would I'd be out in the first round.
I would make it until Claritin supplies started getting low, and then I'm out. Like the first day I can't find 2 Claritin tablets, I'm not even dying to the zombie apocalypse. I'm just like pollen is going to get me.
Yeah. It's yeah. Uh
So I mean, and well, I mean, I agree 100%. Like, as I was joking on our Discord, there's nothing maybe more annoying than someone who starts off a statement with like, "As a parent."
right.
dot dot dot, and that usually leads to some sort of obnoxious statement afterwards. But yeah, so I won't say that. As someone with a kid, um, the kid in peril thing is rough on me too. Like that just it quits being fun. I mean, on the one hand, you have like Lee in season one, who at least is like playing this role of father. I mean, this is around the time that like the datification of games was a huge theme that we see starting to take hold in the industry. And at least he's there. Like a lot of times, you're protecting her immediately. As I jumped into season two, which I don't want to talk about too much today, but it's like now that Clem is the protagonist and she's just out there on her own, it's like this is 1,000 times worse. Like I
Oh,
hate
that
this
would
even more.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
How
rough
old
on
is
me.
she in the second season?
Oh, I can't remember. She's like 10 or 12. Well, how was she in the first season? Is she 8?
Oh.
I don't
Yeah, she's a
remember either.
little girl. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's like 10 or 12, but it's still, yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible for me. But, I feel like, too, you and I were talking about this a little bit before stream. As much as the game isn't for us, I think we were in agreement. This is obviously an important game,
Yeah.
but we're pretty sure it's a good game, too, right? Like, just a good game for someone who isn't me.
Yeah, I mean, it is obviously a monument. It is, as I said, it is like very compelling and well written and looks great, and all of the choices matter stuff in it is like it feels they do a decent job with it, and it's also obvious, like, playing this for the first time, seeing all the games that it was like that it influenced.
Yeah, I mean, how iconic is Clementine will remember that? I
Right.
mean, just the notion of that. I mean, eventually Telltale starts using that almost like an in joke by the time they're in Tales the Borderland, where they're like, doing like little jabs at themselves with jokes there. I mean, yeah, it's a game changer. It's almost as iconic as like the cake is a lie kind of talk, I feel like, but
Yep.
yeah, and it definitely in that sense, groundbreaking, no question.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it is just a like, it everything really, it often feels good. I mean, it does also have some of the jank that
Yeah.
all of the Telltale games had.
Yes.
But I mean, like it actually, it feels, as someone that loves the early point and click, like, adventure game era of Telltale, like, playing this, it's like, oh, this is the start of Telltale games. This is when they started making the games that they make. Like, because like this is their own very, very specific style. Uh
Absolutely.
that which is so it's so funny. And you and I were talking about this, is that they like, this comes out and it was such a huge hit, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, we have to make everything everything is everything has to be The Walking Dead now. And then, like, to the point then where like everyone got very tired of it very quickly.
Yeah.
Not
And some of those
quickly.
later games that are quite good end up getting horrible reviews and largely overlooked by players because the formula started to feel old. So even you get a fantastic game, like I'm a huge fan of Telltale's Batman games. Those
Yeah.
are fantastic games, and they're getting very middling reviews by the time they come out. And I think a large part of that was just like Telltale fatigue. And it starts here and it explodes massively. And yeah, the magic trick of making you believe that choices are mattering and you're shaping the story and everything is so novel and so refreshing. And they really drive it into the ground. I think we joked, it's like then you crunch for 8 years straight, churning out an episode a month of like 4 different series at once, and then eventually you drive your development team and your company into the ground by the time it's over.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, and it's fun, like, because yeah, I watched you streamed this Batman season 2, which I believe was their last non Walking Dead thing that they did before they were semi revived. But I mean, I watched that and I thought that was just excellent.
Oh yeah, it's
I thought it was
fantastic.
gripping. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was like all the like had a lot of really fun cliffhangers and stuff like that.
Original, which is almost impossible to do with
Extremely
Batman.
original.
You know,
And oddly enough, it didn't feel that like super grim in the same way that I feel that The Walking Dead does.
I am justice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And like I was just really enjoying because it did a lot of Bruce stuff that was a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
yeah, absolutely. And then Joker stuff that wasn't the typical Joker stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was great fun. And that game can't exist without The Walking Dead existing first. The Walking Dead shambled so that Batman could run.
And yeah, and I remember that like the reaction at the time was just ugh,
Yeah, it's like another one of
ugh,
these. No, I guess they got another license, and it's too bad for
ugh.
those later games. They're actually quite good and do some neat stuff with that aging, creaking, wheezing engine. And
Because you played Game of Thrones as
yeah,
well, which you enjoyed. Is that
also
right?
really
Yeah.
good. I mean, it was. I think it started slower than some, but I liked Game of Thrones quite a bit. I think that I mean it sort of lived and died by its connection to the television show, which at times was a strength because you're like, oh, I know that guy. At
Yeah.
other times, it's like, oh, I know that guy. And obviously, he can't play a very important part in this story because they can't afford to get him to do too many
Right.
lines.
Oh, so
The Kid Harrington of it all.
yeah, I
Like,
was going to say like I remember him showing up and being
yeah,
like, all right, well,
it's
yeah,
me,
he
Jon Snow. And then he's just like, I'm out of here.
hello, what off I go,
Yeah,
farewell.
I have to go north of the wall. Yeah, no.
Off I go. Got to
White
look for the
Walkers.
White Walkers.
Boy, yeah, no, absolutely. I can't believe we
I'm
got Kid
afraid of.
Harrington for this.
I'm worried that a lot of people from Castle Rock are coming.
I'm in a skiffle band. Uh, no, yeah, I mean that held it back. I mean, it's a great game. And again, it is very much a Walking Dead 'em up. I think that it's a blessing and a curse because Telltale was doing some neat stuff with its more traditional point and clicks before Walking Dead. I mean, you take a game like, I'm playing right now Sam and Max: The Devil's Playhouse, the recently
Which is
remastered version of that.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, season 3 of Sam and Max, fantastic game, really creative, does cool stuff. Just sort of just a terrific game. Tales of Monkey Island, great game. Back to the Future, not too bad, not my favorite of the bunch, but yeah, I mean, all that sort of stuff's gone after this comes out. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's a shame, like, but I can also understand it.
I can
It's
too.
also it's like and then you play something like Life is Strange and you see like that group of developers like looked at the Telltale thing and said, "Okay, but what if CW?" and like
Yes.
added a bit of their own, add like, it like Life is Strange like does the Telltale formula except in a very like they add their own spin to everything. And like in a way that makes that feel very fresh where like the like even like the later Telltales, you're like, all right, I know all of the, like, you've seen all of the sleights of hand.
Right. I mean, it's tough, and I think about that. You add on some layers. You slap on a different IP. If you're Telltale, you kind of revisit it, with that teenage melodrama that Life is Strange would bring later down the road. But I think one of the things that really struck me that maybe is surprising at some level. I mean, there's a lot of Walking Dead after this first season. Between the other
Yeah,
seasons, the spinoffs, the like one shots. I mean, there's a lot of Walking Dead that Telltale churns through. I think the biggest problem for me about this game, and I think it speaks to a lot of the exhaustion that we both felt going through it, is at the end of it, I was glad to have survived it, but wasn't desperately like wanting more. Like I didn't come away from it, I was like, I can't wait to jump back into this universe. I was like, okay, I'm going to catch my breath, and maybe now I need to play something that's a little less dark.
it's yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just draining. It's just you move from one set piece to the next. There's just some like new people that are screaming at you and calling you a dumb asshole. And and
if I
then
if I want
like,
that, I'll go to work.
yeah, exactly. Like you just move from one scenario to the next where like you're being called like a real prick, and then you do something to make a little girl cry. And then he chops some guy's leg off, and then and then you get Soylent Greened. Like it's just a parade of stuff. And I mean, yeah, it's like I mean, maybe it wouldn't, maybe it's a sign of its quality that it got such a reaction out of me. It's also like Mass Effect came out after. Did Mass Effect come out after this or not? Or Mass Effect 2, which had like,
Ooh,
did was
let's
this
see.
the innovator in that there's a timer with a dialogue? Because I think that's such a clever thing.
Mass Effect 2 is 2010.
And that has the timer with the
Yeah.
dialogue, right? Okay, so then they took this from Mass Effect. Okay.
I
Uh
mean,
unless
is the
this came out, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Anyway.
is the problem that we're just big old softies?
Yes.
I mean, that's it. I mean, yeah, I think this is
But
a good game.
I don't care for stuff that's just relentlessly grim. I
Yeah.
congratulate all of them on their success, and
I mean, again,
and then I lament their failure after the success ran out.
I go
Uh,
back, as I said, I just watched Dawn of the Dead with my students last week. So it's fresh on my mind. But, that's a movie that along the way, while it's telling this gruesome, violent zombie story, it has scenes where these characters who are holed up in a shopping mall are like going on a wacky shopping spree and like trying on clothes and just enjoying all the trappings of American consumerism. Toward the end, there's a pie fight where people are hitting zombies in the face with cream pies. I mean, it is the sort of thing that, that levity for me is, and maybe this is because I get my entry
Professor,
points
I
in.
didn't find that scene very. I didn't find that scene very realistic, Professor.
No, I mean, you want to know? Yeah.
I have a new character for the podcast. Your worst student.
I mean, yeah, this is. I mean, I can tell you, everyone wants to hear stories about my classroom experiences. But the reason I stopped teaching this class in 2012 was I was having more and more trouble getting students to detach themselves from how much they enjoyed a particular piece of media and how much they loved it and how much trivia they knew about it and how many other obscure
Oh,
works they could cite. It's like, have you seen this, really obscure Italian zombie film? It's like, no, I haven't. I'm lazy when it comes to
what?
watching things.
Can you
And
can you send me the name of that? I'd be
yeah,
interested. I'll watch the Italian.
yeah. I
With
mean,
like a giallo. Yeah, I'll
yeah,
watch that.
it turned into that. And it was like, I needed to get them thinking critically, and I couldn't get them thinking past, oh my God, did you see last week's Walking Dead? It was awesome. There was a scene where somebody ate someone's leg, you know, and
What's the
that was
leg eating talk?
yeah. I mean, I don't even have
We,
lecture notes for leg eating.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do there? But yeah, that's what drove me away from it. And you know, it's interesting. I think that we have the advantage now in the year 2024. Nobody cares about college anymore, so I don't have students who want to say anything, so I never get interrupted.
Fabulous.
That's
You could put on the film, say anything. Um,
true, and they would say nothing.
yeah. Tragic.
But yeah, so how many thumbs up out of 10 does this get?
Oh, 2.
Wow, that's the lowest number of thumbs up we've given anything yet on this our Walking Dead episode.
Listen, yeah, no, it's fine. It's just excessively not for me. Yeah, it's like the the all the set pieces. Like there was like a nice tense in the first episode set piece where you have to take down like a bunch of zombies, and so you have to like kind of like run through, like it was this very loose puzzle. Like it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, like in order to do this you have to take out this guy, and then you can go over here and pick up this because that guy's gone now, and then you can do this, and then you can do this. Like there was like I enjoyed like they did a good job of building a lot of very engaging and fun set pieces. And I mean, yeah, if I didn't find it so gruesome, I would probably have continued playing it because I was like I kind of want to know what happens next, but it just
Yeah.
also made me feel miserable, so I
You know,
was
I
just like,
wonder
never
too.
mind.
I've talked about this in some of my classes as well. The difference between like passively consuming a piece of media and being forced to interact with it and ultimately enact these sorts of gruesome behaviors, I feel like is a huge difference. It's like, I wonder if you would have an easier time watching let's plays of these last few episodes as opposed to being in a position where it's like, no, you have to press, you know, the Q and E keys
Yeah.
to saw this person's leg off. So I
Yeah,
mean,
I thought about that. I
yeah,
thought about watching, like, to see, because I'm sure that the end of the 5th episode has a nice little, like, a thing where, like, it calls back a whole bunch of your decisions and you go, "Ooh, oh, ooh," like, it surprises you a whole bunch of times. I bet that's a thing that it does. And then I know how it ends. But like I assume that before that it gives you a nice little. I bet you didn't expect that.
yeah. Lots
There.
of your past decisions shape, yeah, how the who comes with you on your final, you know, big scene and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it pulls it all together. And then, of course, with the very tragic ending, you find out that Lee was the scientist who created the zombie virus.
Is that true?
That would be great if it was, though,
That'd
wouldn't
be
it?
really funny. That'd be
I
really
made The
that.
Walking Dead, and then yeah, he just flies away in a
Ah,
helicopter.
yeah.
It's so weird. Like I didn't see it coming. He just laughs maniacally, and it's like I staged the whole bit at the beginning when I was in the back of the cop car, and Clementine's like, "I didn't see that. What are you even talking about right
Yeah.
now?"
It's like, yeah, it's
did, did
it's
we
a
just make
very
a better Walking
yeah,
Dead?
yeah, yeah. Give us a call, Timmy. Telltale.
Timmy Telltale, the CEO
Timmy,
of Telltale Games.
why did they bring Clementine into one of the poker games?
She's just like traumatized. It's like the people I care about are in danger right now. I don't want to play poker. And then meanwhile,
That's
like
a Full House.
yeah, Homestar is and then Homestar Runner is just like, I love cards. You know, it's just I'm sorry, now this is all I can think about.
Yeah,
Like, why this is I wonder if there's enough Clem dialogue over all the seasons of Walking Dead that you could cobble
there we
together
go.
something that looks like table chatter
Yeah.
for because there are modded versions of Poker Nut where people put in new characters.
What?
So yes.
What other characters have people
I mean,
modded
just
in?
usually other random Telltale characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But um
So this is like
why
Marty. Is Marty in there? Is
I don't know.
Doc
I
in
need to
there?
check this out. I mean, I
That'd be
just thought,
fun.
yeah,
Dude, you
no,
could play poker with Marty McFly.
but he's been to the future, so he knows how the hands turn out.
Oh,
He
that's
has the
true.
sports almanac, so you can just look up. It's
That's
like,
true.
oh yeah, who wins this hand of poker? And you're never going to beat him.
I remember being so impressed watching a trailer that they put out at the time of the quality of the Michael J. Fox impression. Very good.
Oh yeah, that was like the marketing campaign for the Back to the Future game.
It's
It
like
was
we
like
found a guy.
we found a guy, yeah. I mean that was like the big selling point. I mean, it is over the course of 5 episodes a fantastic Marty McFly. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
very good.
remember in that not particularly good Star Trek Telltale alike,
Ugh.
they had that guy's Spock was pretty good.
It was a good Spock. It was a good
There's a good
Spock.
Spock. This guy did this incredible Riker.
Yeah, that's Star Trek Resurgence. Star Trek Resurgence. Everyone get out there and play it. It gets the Quest seal of this is a game.
I have, yeah, not a fan. All right, is there anything else to say about The Walking Dead? I feel that there's even more. Like, it's just
Tune in next week, season
yeah,
2.
yeah. Oh no. That's it. I'm not playing any more of The Walking Dead. If you played The Walking Dead and you also noped out, let us know at questpodcast@gmail.com.
Now, Ben, should our
Yeah,
listeners like if they enjoyed
thank
this
you.
episode,
Thank
if
you.
they thought this episode was just
Thank
like the
you.
bee's knees,
Right.
how could they let us and the rest of the world know that?
Well, of course, on whatever you use to listen to the podcast, please rate and review. I know this is the annoying thing, but we gotta do this. Otherwise, people don't find this podcast, and it's just you listening. It's just your two friends just talking to one person as opposed to like 10.
Yeah, we could get upwards of 10 people listening to this with your help. Without
With
it,
your help,
no
10 people.
chance.
Yeah, and all right, this is how it's going to go. Is that there will be like a bunch of like excited adventure game nerds that listen to the first one, decide they don't like the first one because
And
it's
it
the
was
first
terrible.
one.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
I don't like the first one.
but then they'll then the couple people that do stay on, what happens with them is that they're like adventure game grogs, like
Yeah, that's what we call them.
like, and they're just like, wait a minute, these guys don't care about puzzles, they didn't enjoy The Walking Dead, they're not real adventure game heads.
They spend the
They don't like
entire podcast talking about other games that aren't adventures during their first segment.
anyway. Rate and review 5 stars.
Or, if you don't feel like we deserve 5 stars, we get it.
Give that bad review to another podcast.
That's right. Double it and pass it on.
That's right. All right. But so yeah, do you have anything else to say before I sign us off?
Ben, I think that we have done The Walking Dead its due.
Great. All right, well, folks, this has been Quest Rate and Review. Watch us on Twitch, Decaf Jedi, PS_Garrick. And you can join us next week when we discuss which game had the best usage of the fine leather jackets running gag. Until then, this is Quest.